Hi there. In this video, we're going to have a look at how you can create a pivot table from information held within multiple tabs within a single file. So first of all, let's have a look at the data set we're going to use to exhibit this. So we've got some sales data here showing some sales that have been made in different territories throughout a fictitious company. So we're open on the USA tab and I can scroll through the different tabs and we can see the different sales data we've got. Now, as you can see, as I scroll through all the tabs, the information is it's basically the same. It's got all the same headers. It's just got different line item information in each of the tables. So how do we go about putting all of this information into a pivot table? Well, normally what you'd have to do is you'd probably create another tab and you'd copy and paste all of the information in all of these tabs with all of the different information from all of the jurisdictions, copy and paste it all into one sheet and then create the pivot table from that sheet. Now, that might be a reasonable option, but of course, the more information there is, the more tabs there are, the more frequently you have to do this, then it just takes a bit of time out of the day that you don't really need to use. So let's have a look at how you could do this using PowerQuery. So the first thing that I need to do is close my file that I'm going to end up connecting to. Okay, now we can see them on my blank Excel workbook. So first thing I need to do is go to the Data tab, which I'm already on, and then go to Get Data, and then to From File, and then to From Workbook. Now from there up comes a little menu saying, okay, tell us which data set you want to connect to. I want to connect to this one here. And now we get the navigator menu for PowerQuery to pop up. Now this navigator menu asks us to tell PowerQuery which tab in the workbook that we've selected that we want to connect to. Now we want to connect to all of them. So there's a couple of options here as to what you can do. Now first of all, you can select multiple items. So I'll just select this item here. And from there, now you can select any of these boxes down against each of the different territories. That's not actually the way that I would do this, because in future you might find that you get sheets that are called other jurisdictions if we expand our company, and you might find then that you don't connect to all the data sets within the workbook. So what I'll do instead is I'll deselect the Select Multiple Items checkbox, and then right-click the dataset folder, and then select Transform Data. Okay, here we are now back in the PowerQuery editor, and we can see the names on the left-hand side of all of the tabs within the workbook that we've connected to. We can see in the data column that there's a table in each of these tabs, and then we've got the sheet name and we've got the kind of object that we've connected to, which is a sheet, and that there's nothing hidden. So what we want to do to expand all of the tables that we want to connect to, we just need to go to the data column. In the right-hand corner of the header, we just have a little button with two arrows pointing in opposite directions, so I'll select that. A menu then pops up saying, okay, these are all the columns that you've got in your tabs. Do you want to import these? And you can deselect any of these, so you can just import the ones that you want to. I want to import all of them. Then down at the bottom, we've got this Use Original Column Name as Prefix. I want to get rid of that. And then I'll click OK. Okay, now we've connected PowerQuery to each of the tabs within the Excel file that we first connected to. And we can check that if I go to column 2, which has got country in the first row. I'll just click on the drop-down option. And then we can see that within that column 2, we've got all the different names of all of the different countries within the sheets. Okay, now before I do anything else, I just want to get rid of a couple of columns that we don't need. So I'm going to get rid of name at the beginning, and I'll scroll to the end, and then get rid of the item, kind, and hidden columns. Okay, from there I want to promote the top row into the headers. And then I just want to change some of the format types which haven't automatically formatted. Okay, so once you've done your change typing, the next thing that we need to do is get rid of all the headers that still remain in the dataset. So what happens when you use this technique to bring multiple tabs together is that the headers at the top of each of the tabs, they still remain in place in the dataset. So we need to get rid of those. So how we do that is that we can go to any of the columns and then select a drop-down arrow. So I've gone to country, and we can see that there is the word country in our drop-down menu. So all we need to do to remove the rows with that header title in is just deselect the country. Okay, and that would have taken out the headers in each of the tabs. So the last thing to do then is to load this information back into Excel. So to do that, we go to close and load. Normally what we do is just allow close and load to load the data automatically into a table. But what we're going to do is select close and load to, and then select a pivot table option. Now this can be a really good option because when you bring information together in this way, you might find that you've got tables or you might find that you've got tabs with hundreds of thousands of rows of data. And if you try and bring them all together, you might find that the total of those hundreds of thousands of rows is more than the total row limit in an Excel worksheet, which is just over 1 million. However, if you select a pivot table option, then you can still load that data straight into Excel, into a pivot table, instead of into a table, which Excel won't allow. Okay then, the last thing to do then is to create our pivot table. So I'll use net sales and analyze that by country and then by product. The last thing to do then is just to format our numbers in our pivot table. There we go, that's our pivot table complete. All the information from all of the tabs of data compiled in a single pivot table. No copying and pasting required.